Hello everyone, my name's Archie. You're looking at my 1973 F100. I'm making this video because family and friends have been asking for an update on the truck to see where I'm at with it. Just a little background on the truck. I got this truck from Georgia. This truck was grandfather Ted's truck, Jan's grandpa. I was actually in the market a few years ago for a C10. 6772 is my favorite C10. She was down there visiting him. She sent me pictures of this truck. I knew nothing about F100s. What the aftermarket provides for them. But I did have an interest in it just because it's old, and the fact that it was green, my favorite color. And she sent me more pictures of it, and I was just very impressed of how solid the truck was. It didn't appear to have any major rust issues. So I told her jokingly to tell Grandpa Ted to put this truck in his will for Jan to get it when he passes. And she called me and said that Grandpa Ted was willing to give us the truck if she could show him that she was able to drive the truck safely up and down the road. And I kind of laughed, but I knew Jan could do it. It had a 360 in it with a 3-speed with a granny gear on the floor, manual steering, and she took the truck up the road with him in it, and she was able to drive the truck. So he gave us the truck and shipped it up here for free. So we got a great deal on the truck. Me and Jan actually drove it around for about a year the way it was, just using it for house projects. But one day I got myself into a bind. I rented a cement mixer. I was building a deck on the side of the house and had to run to Lowe's to get some cement bags, and I overloaded the truck and burned the rear end of it coming home from Lowe's. So after that, it just kind of sat. I knew that I always wanted to fix the truck, make it like a pro touring style truck. And so I just let it sit until I had some money saved to get started on the truck. So that was about a little over 2 years ago. So I just started tearing the truck down. And one thing that I wanted to do to it is, it was a long bed. I wanted a short bed, but I really did not like the way F100 short beds looked from the factory. I just thought that the wheelbase from front to rear was too narrow. And in my personal opinion, I just thought they looked goofy. So spending a lot of time on the internet, looking at pictures, reading a lot of info on how guys cut beds down. It's done a lot of different ways. I found the best way that I thought that would make it as easy and as seamless as possible. So once I had the truck all torn down, cab off frame, I started with the bed. Yeah, so I'll show you what I did with the bed to cut it down. So most guys, when they convert long beds into short beds, you have to, even on C10s, you have to take so much out of the front of the bed, and then you have to cut back the rear of the bed a certain length as well. But on F100 dent sides, to convert a long bed to a short bed, you only have to cut a certain amount off of the front. But most guys, when they cut down a bed to convert it from a long bed to short bed, they will cut and make their cut along the outside of the sheet metal. And then when they weld it back together, they have a seam that runs down the sheet metal there. So I just kind of started looking at the bed one day and was like, well, maybe I could do it this way, and that's kind of how I ended up doing it. So the way I did it is I got a spot weld cutter and cut all the spot welds on this front panel here and took this panel completely off. And then I used like a small little Dremel with a cutting wheel on it, and then just cut just behind this seam that runs all the way down. And then after a lot of measuring with a tape measure and string and stuff, then I just cut this panel back 11 inches or so, and then just welded everything back kind of like on the inside. Now granted, it does have, you know, the metal work that I did, but it's all on the front here instead of it being on the side right down the middle. That probably took me at least 6 months to do with work and just being as particular as I am with trying to get it to fit back right. But I think overall it turned out pretty well. I'm going to leave all the rust spots on it just because I'm a big patina nut and I like patina. So one of the things again that I did to try to make it, you know, look as symmetrical as possible is, if you can notice, now that I shortened the bed 11 inches in the front, it made this post off center. So what I did to fix that is I filled in with some leftover sheet metal. I filled in this post and took this hole I originally cut from here and then put it in the front. So now I have a post hole in the front and in the rear. And my measurement being 11 inches, the reason why it was 11 inches, give or take, I can't remember what the correct measurement was, but I still wanted to use this factory flat door on the side. I really didn't have a way with my inexperience to just fill this hole that would have been left if I didn't utilize this door. And obviously, because I cut the bed shorter, I had to cut this door and narrow that as well. And again, the reason why my measurement was around 11 inches or so is because at the time when I was figuring to utilize this side door again, the hinge points on the bottom of the bed, after I put the metal back together, my measurement, it allowed me to still use the factory bottom hinges for this door. One of the things that I have to fix on the bed once I tear it back down is, if you notice, the gap between the bed and the fender is not great. It looks okay, but you can notice, I think you can see it, where the gap looks good here, but as you go down, it kind of sways in. So I want to fix that once the bed is back off the truck. The driver's side gap looks great. I don't have to fix that. It's nice and even from top to bottom. So continuing with the bed, I knew that I was going to have to raise the bed floor because I had to step notch the frame because I wanted to lower the truck. So I had to raise the bed about 6 inches. So I cut the entire bed floor out of the original bed I had to make all new framing to lift the bed of the truck back up. And for the tubs, because of the widened wheels in the rear, I went with C10 widened wheel tubs. And then for the sides of the bed, I did C10 floor patch panels. And a lot of these projects, small little projects that I did on the truck, was due to me just not having money to spend on different parts at the time. So I would just come out here and think of things that I could do to the truck that wouldn't cost a lot of money, that I could do to just to kind of make it better. So one of the things that I did was I made a lift bed in it. And so this again was a long project that took a lot of time, a lot of figuring. So this is wood that I got from just a local lumber yard in town. I believe it's cedar, don't quote me on that. It's been a while since I bought it, but it's supposed to resist rot and all that stuff. I might stain it. I'm gonna poly it. I'm not sure if I'm gonna stain it a color or just leave it natural or not, but that's one of the things I'm gonna do when I tear it back apart. And the main reason for me putting a lift bed in it is just because, you know, once the frame is all painted and everything looks shiny and new, you know, it'll be a conversation starter, I guess, maybe at gas stations or local car shows or whatnot about all the work that I did to the frame. So again, with the frame, because I shortened the bed, I had to shorten the frame. So with the frame, I just, again, lots of time, tape measure, string, digital levelers. I got the frame level, made sure it was completely square. I cut the back end off of the frame, made some step notch templates, took them up to Winchester Metals, and they cut me out some plate steel, 3/16 plate. And so just began just kind of tacking in the step notch, making sure it was level, side to side, front to back, that it was square. The inside of the frame, past the 4-link brackets, that's all been boxed in. Should be nice and stout. The 4-link kit is from Scott's Hot Rods. It came with the 4 links, the brackets, the coilovers, the pan hard bar, and then I just set the ride height the way that I wanted it to sit once it was all done. So yeah, I'm running Willwood disc brakes in the rear. It's a pretty nice kit. It has a drum emergency brake inside the disc itself, so I can still run with an emergency brake. This top piece here is just a 3/16 plate that I made to cover the supports that run side to side. I just thought I would try to do something to kind of make it look eye-catchy, I guess. I think it turned out all right. So with the lift bed, I made all the framing. I bent and made all the hinges and the swivel points. Used some Amazon gas shocks. Again, there's a lot of things that I did to this truck that I'm probably gonna forget to say what I did. But a lot of this, just a lot of time, a lot of figuring, a lot of measuring. And it works. So that's all the work that I did to the rear of the frame. So it has a nice patina on it. There's no major dents in this truck. No major body damage. Again, one of the things that drew me to this truck, even though I wasn't originally a Ford truck guy, was just the fact of how clean, rust-free this truck is. All the doors on the bottoms, inside, the cab corners are completely solid. I did replace the floors on the driver and passenger side only because, again, I had time. Floor pans are cheap. The stock floors had mild Swiss cheese in them, but replacing the floors just passed the time, and now I know that they're completely solid and won't continue to worsen. The doors, the bottom of the doors are solid. Inside the cab has a little bit of surface rust on it, but it's solid. Probably the worst rust that I've had to deal with is a rat got up and made a nest in between the inside and outside sheet metal along the top of that window there, and fortunately only rusted the inside panel instead of rusting all this around the window. That's still nice and solid. So what I did is I just cut that piece out, and then I was able to go to a junkyard, and luckily the guy let me cut a complete roof off of an F100 that was pretty solid. So I just cut the sheet metal that I needed out of that roof, and I'll weld that back in once the cab is off the truck. And one thing that I'm going to do to kind of fix the problem that I'm going to have with green and a piece of white sheet metal in there is, I don't know why it was done. It doesn't appear like there's any rust around the windshield that was fixed, but somebody painted the top part of this roof this green color. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some white paint that I painted the grill with, and I'm going to do like a two-tone on this rear of the cab and the roof and paint that white, and then I'll mimic that on the inside of the truck, so the inner posts and the roof will be all white. So the wheels that I'm running are Detroit steel. I'm running a 20 by 11 in the rear and 20 by 9 in the front. I don't know if you noticed or not, but these bumpers are off of a short bed bump side F100, which is an earlier model. So the grille on this truck was originally chrome. The grille itself was in pretty good shape. I didn't want to leave it a dull, nasty chrome color. So just out of curiosity, one day I came out here, scuffed it up pretty well, and painted it white. I actually like the way that it turned out. I'm going to keep it white. I think it looks neat with the gray plastic grille inserts and the amber turn signals. So that's the same color that I'll be painting the roof of the truck. I'm going to keep the stock mirrors on it. I know most guys would probably take these truck mirrors off and put some dinky little small mirror on there, but that just means more holes to fill, and I think the mirrors look fine. As far as trim goes, I'll be putting a little bit more trim back on the truck. Trim like around the drip rail. I'll be putting trim on the drip rail. Where the white starts to go up the cab in the back, I'll be putting like a little piece of wraparound trim on the cab there. And then I might, some models had trim that went along the indent along the truck. I might put some trim there. I'm not sure yet. As far as keeping it patina, yeah, I'm going to keep the truck just the way it is. As far as the paint, I might put a buffer to it to get a little bit more sheen out of it, but I love just patina itself. I think that's the best way to do it. You can drive the truck. You don't have to worry about small scratches, dents, surface rust. I think that's just the way to go. As far as the interior, I'm just going to put the interior back to stock, recover the bench seat. I might make the foam a little stiffer. I'm going to buy new door panels for it, but they'll be all like factory original gauge. I'll put a Dakota Digital gauge cluster in it to mimic the stock gauges in it. New headliner, reseal, sound dead the floor, and just put a carpet in it. We'll talk about the transmission in a minute. I got that nice steering wheel off of CJ Pony Parts. I love that steering wheel. But as far as the interior goes, it'll just be factory-ish. And for the bed, again, I might stain. I'm not sure yet, but the sides of the bed, I'll do like a Raptor liner and on the tailgate. But the main point of me putting the truck back together before I tear it down again is I wanted to make sure that all the metal work that I've done on the bed, the frame, the front end that I'm about to show you, that everything went back together the way that it should. I want this truck, besides it being lowered, to look as factory as possible. I think these trucks look great original, just on the ground. So forgive me while I put the phone down to show you underneath the hood. So yes, that is not a Ford motor. I'm going to be putting an LS in it. I'm sure some Ford fanatics are throwing up right now. But again, my budget is very small. And in my opinion, to get cheap, reliable, big power is putting an LS in your truck. So that is an LY6. It came out of a 2010 Chevrolet 2500 Silverado. The guy that I bought this motor from, he pulled it because it had a ticking noise. He didn't know what the ticking noise was, got nervous, pulled the motor, and bought a reman motor for his truck. Put this on Facebook Marketplace for $300, and somehow I scored it. My plan with the motor, I really don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. I want somewhere between 450 and 500 wheel horsepower. You can get that kind of power out of these motors, but it takes some money. So I'm kind of in between whether putting a lot of money into this motor or just putting it back factory and putting a small turbo on it to get me the horsepower level that I want. Inner fender wheel tubs. So obviously with the truck being as low as it is, the factory inner fenders would not work. There are companies out there that make inner fender tubs for F100s, but I think one company had them priced at like $1,500, and I just couldn't spend that much money on some inner fender tubs. So what I did is I cut the original inner fender wells and welded in some C10 bed tubs, and this took at least about a month to do, just because I wanted them to be level, side to side, front to back, and with one another. And I needed them to be the right height to give me about 4 inches of wheel travel for the front wheel, and for the hood to still be able to close. So that's where they ended up. When I got them in there and got them all nice and level, there was about a 4-inch gap between the frame and the bottom of the tub. So I made these little skirts that bolts on to the bottom of them to kind of take up that gap to keep debris out of the engine bay. And then I just kind of made mounts that bolts to the tub, to the frame, on the front and back, to keep them from flopping all over the place and to keep them nice and level. They actually turned out very well. For the front suspension, again, Scott's Hot Rods, they make a weld-in suspension kit for these F100s. It came with the cross member, the power steering rack, upper and lower control arms, a sway bar, the spindles, which allow to run wheel woods up front, and the coilovers. And it took a lot of time, a lot of figuring, a lot of cutting. I had to notch the frame and then rebox where the power steering rack goes through the frame for clearance. But from the front of the sway bar to where the front of the cab is all boxed in. It actually turned out pretty nice. I actually took a day or so to do a lot of measuring to make sure that everything was nice and square, level. Yeah, just, I think the 3 biggest tools that I used in this entire build up to this point was that digital leveler there, a tape measure, a plumb bob with string. Let's see if I can get a shot of the suspension underneath. So it's a very nice kit. My main goal with this truck is obviously for it to run good. I don't need to go fast. This is not going to be a race truck. My main goal with this truck, because of where I live with nice windy roads, is I wanted it to handle very well. So I'm hoping this truck will handle very well with the time and the money that I put in on the suspension. Transmission, I'm running a T56 in it. It didn't need a T56. I wanted one, so I bought one. I could have bought a used one to save some money, but I didn't want to take the chance of spending $2-3 grand on a used T56 transmission and install it and have an issue with it because someone beat the heck out of it. So I just saved and purchased a brand new one. So yeah, I'll be running a 6-liter LS with a T56 in it. Could be turboed, still undetermined. But I'm running a Wheelwood master cylinder with a brake booster. With the transmission, it came with a kit to convert your clutch to hydraulic. So I've installed a hydraulic clutch master cylinder. Had to make a panel for the firewall where the big heater box was in. Probably the first year or so driving this truck, it won't have heater AC in it. They make nice aftermarket kits, heat and AC, but they are pretty pricey, that are nice and condensed, that go underneath the dash. I'll eventually do that, but I just want to drive the truck. Oh, the reason why I went with this particular engine is because I could have put a 5.3 in it or a 4.8, but I figured that if I decided to go NA with it, that my power goals would probably be quicker met with a 6-liter. Didn't have money for an all aluminum 6.2. And just from doing a lot of research on these different truck motors and stuff, in my opinion, the LY6, you get the most bang for your buck, because one, it's a 6-liter, and two, it comes with the LS3 heads on it from the factory. They flow well, so you can make pretty good power with an LY6. That's why I went with an LY6. So again, just to end this video, probably in the next couple days, I'm going to be tearing the truck down. I'm going to coat the frame, paint, all the things that need to be painted, like the grille support, or the radiator support, the inner fenders, the bed, underneath the cab. Yeah, just try to make it look decent underneath of the truck. Again, this is not a show truck, but with all the metal work that I've done, there's a lot of bare metal that needs to be coated. So this has just been an update on my 73 F100. Me being a C10 guy, I've actually have turned into quite the Ford fan. These trucks are not very appealing, being 2 feet off the ground, but I don't know, it's just something about C10s, F100s in general, where you just take what the factory did as far as like how they look and lower them. I know some guys like jacking the trucks up. I just think these trucks look very good lowered. So I hope you enjoyed this video, give you kind of an update on what I've done to my truck. Hopefully I can have it on the road in about a year. My goal is to be driving it in about a year. So if you have any questions, obviously in 2.5 years, I've done a lot of fabrication work on this truck. This video would probably be 2 hours if I were to write down every single thing that I've done to this truck up until this point. But again, some people just kind of wanted an update on the truck. I'm not big into Facebook, social media and stuff. And they just kind of wanted to see the progress. So hopefully you like the way the truck looks. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.